title is.
Feelings are not proof.
I'm sorry, what?
Feelings are not proof. The feelings that you have prove nothing. If you think they do, on some level, you'll go to war or you'll fight. This doesn't mean we should ignore them. I'm not saying that. But it does mean that we shouldn't necessarily go into them and mix them up and try to see what they're all about and who caused them. Trying to find out who caused something you're feeling leads to just sometimes terrible conflict, because you're tapping into a line, a tributary of causes and conditions that are completely unexplainable, undiscoverable, and it's way, way too complex. It's like the Matrix, only worse or better. Maybe
We're launching 60 missiles.
Hmm?
We're launching 60 missiles.
I don't do that. So we all have experiences on some level where something occurs, or maybe nothing occurs. Maybe you're just sitting here in a restaurant, you're talking to someone that you have some rapport with, friend, an acquaintance, maybe your relative, and some kind of activity is happening there that sparks emotions coming and going. Sometimes there doesn't seem to be any cause on the surface for emotions we feel. Sometimes we have really negative emotions, rather than just feeling that, instead of doing that, then we do feel it initially, but then we don't like it, so we object to it, so then we start to go to war with it, and we want to know what it is, and we label it aggression. I mean, not aggression, but depression, the D word. And it is aggression in that something arises, we object. Don't object. Don't agree. Don't look away. Those are the three poisons in Buddhism. An incredible understanding of the way human beings, living beings, function in terms of grasping, rejecting, shutting down. And again, to make it very clear, because these are very simple concepts and ideas, we're not saying that you should turn into a block of stone, because if you could. Pardon me. So when I'm saying that feelings are not proof, what I'm addressing is a particular way where something happens or not. Like sometimes with depression, there doesn't seem to be any cause, which is quite confusing to our whole sensorium, our thinking process, our emotions, our memory, our preconceptions, all of the things that operate to give us some kind of a feeling of being here. That's my toothbrush, that's my house, that's my car. We have all these things going to set us up in such a way that we feel like we're here, we're alive, we're a separate being. It's workable. Well, something goes haywire. But what happens is something triggers something. We don't see the trigger. Maybe we do. It doesn't matter. It should be related to in the same way. If you're a person who is endeavoring to train your mind, listen to what I'm saying. When this knots up like this, observe when this goes like this, you'll either go like that or you'll go like that. It's my fault. I did it. Or it comes up and it starts to hurt, and we look out there and see what I have the feeling is what is causing it. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying there isn't some kind of a connection. When I say some kind of, that's not with capital letters. It's just some kind of connection's happening. But by focusing on that connection, you ignore all the other connections. You ignore all the other things that are happening, the causes and conditions that all get together to inform a situation that gives you the illusion that you think there's someone here and someone out there. There is not. And at the same time, of course there is. But there's not. But of course there is. But there's not. What is that about? it's confusing to the ego mind, to the self-centered mind that wants its way, that wants what it wants and wants to keep away what it doesn't want and wants control, power. To that mind, that's extremely confusing, so we tend to choose sides. We tend to arm ourselves. We'll put on uniforms. I have a uniform on here. This is the uniform of the Buddha. It both exists and it doesn't exist. It both means something and it doesn't mean something. Someone who puts on a uniform and identifies with that is buying into relativity in the way to choose sides. So in this situation, we're saying that it's not about not choosing sides. It's not about going this way or drinking coffee or tea. It's not about not having ideas, opinions, feelings. It's about being very aware of what they are, very unstable. Things are changing all the time. So when this feeling, using this kind of a gesture, because it represents, a grip on something, when this kind of feeling comes along and gets you as if by the throat or right around your heart or whatever it's doing, when this starts to clamp down, don't abandon that. You might hear other people say, well, just drop it. I am not going to tell anybody to drop something that has them by the throat. Something is grabbing at you and saying, whatever is occurring to you, whatever you're feeling, don't add. This is how it looks like using this same visual thing. Here's the issue, the problem, the condensation of fear, of aggression coming down, knotting up like this, trying to protect an imaginary self. When that happens, then instead of just looking at that until, when I say until, there's no guarantee. This may never open up. But until that opens up and we see there's nothing there. There's no one there. You have to do it. Until you do it, me, someone else can sit up here and say, point to it. It's like pointing to the finger pointing at the moon. There fundamentally isn't a moon. So to have that feeling, and then this feeling is genuine, you feel it, but it's what we do with it. We have the feeling and then we want to get away from the feeling. And how do we do that? Blame. Because that lightens this up. At least we know, at least it moves the consciousness out of the texture, the prickles, the acidity of that negativity, and moves the consciousness out and distracts us. It's a form of ignorance. It's a way of distracting yourself from, you could say, the problem. You could say the issue. It's like seeing a house is on fire and pointing pointing the hose on another house. Why are you doing that? Well, that one's not on fire. It's a silly kind of image, but it's like, if you look at it, if you see the really big picture, capital B, then you see that it's a distraction. If you see that, then on the cushion as a meditator, there's a possibility you're putting yourself in a position where it's possible for you to see where you're creating your own warfare and discomfort. It's not that you did the first spark. There is nobody in the first place, so we don't know how that might have started altogether or initially, but you're keeping it going. You keep it going by not examining it, not looking down. Unexamined mind is for circular. I like it, I don't like it. It's good, it's bad. They did, I did. I did it, they did it. I get credit, they get credit. I get the blame, they get the blame. You can see it if you extend your memory back to the last 15 days, 15 years, and you can see how in any of our situations there's praise and blame, praise and blame, praise and blame. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying we should let all of the people who have killed people out of prison, that nobody's guilty. That's going the other direction. Don't need to do that either. But what we could do is start with your own mind when you're on the cushion. Is the way to train to see when that arises, when that knot starts to twist up. Instead of going somewhere, just look at it. And when you look at it, I don't say just drop it. You shouldn't drop something you haven't examined. Another thing is you probably can't drop something you haven't examined, because you won't know the way in which your knot, the knot works. You won't actually be able to see the way that knot works. Is it a square knot or a granny knot? That's a question. You see what I'm saying? I mean, for one person it might be this kind of a tangle, and for someone else it's like, it's different. It needs some other kind of work on it. This is why there are so many, when I say why, I don't know. This is just a rhetorical comment. But it's why there are so many different kinds of meditation, so many different kinds of teachers, so many different kinds of teaching, so many different ways to approach the mind. There are people listening to this right now that are probably shutting it off. I've had enough of that guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. It isn't like they're missing the point. It's no, there is no particular point that everybody has to get what I'm saying. They may need to either not do this at all and return to the shuffleboard, or they may need help in another kind of way altogether that I don't understand. So when the difficulty in your life, whatever the trigger is, even if somebody is kind of to blame, in other words, they've accused you of something unjustly, or however you want to say it, or done something because of their confusion, they've done something that, stepped on your toe in some kind of way. It's not that they didn't do it. It's just that if you blame them, you buy into a whole incredibly vast and complex maze of causes and conditions that are not just that. This is the difficulty with believing in a self and feeling there's somebody here. Is you try to simplify it. You say, well, they caused that, or I caused this, or he did that, and that's way too simplistic. It reinforces, reifies, establishes, and supports the self-centeredness. Just like I often say to people, don't forgive anybody. Just don't blame them. Don't blame it. There is no one to blame. If you think there is, to the degree that you think that's true, that's the degree to which you are misunderstanding the nature of this incredible world that we have been born into for half a second. Don't apologize. And when I say that, I don't mean don't say, whoops, I'm sorry I stepped on your toe, or, oh, I poured out your coffee, I thought you were done, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that if you did something more extreme that you couldn't, that you couldn't say something about it, but it's a matter of, fundamentally that is a matter of etiquette, not a matter of someone being right or wrong. So when this arises, when this intense feeling comes up, if it's triggered by somebody, be responsible for your own emotions. No one can cause any of your emotions. Your emotions are your emotions. Who knows what they are, where they came from, what they're about. We have nerve endings. We're living. If you didn't have nerve endings of some kind, you'd have some difficulty. Just like even a simple one like taste. If you get really ill or sometimes if you lose a sense of taste, something is wrong with that. You think, well, that would be okay if that went away. Not so. That's something that happened to Unyo for a while when she got really sick. Her sense of taste went away. Sense of smell, if that goes away. Or obviously, sense of sight, sense of hearing, those are all highly difficult. But if you're in a particular milieu, a social situation, whatever it may be, and something happens to trigger your own emotional matrix that feels like someone's causing something, the message for your consciousness could be, This apparently they're showing me something I haven't examined. They're showing some situation that I have not really clearly looked at. Maybe pride. Someone's offended me. So simply put, what I'm saying is when this knot comes up, rather than blame yourself, blame someone else, or even go into some kind of a mental process that's saying, well, there's no way I can understand. Don't do anything. Don't do anything with it other than the experience that's coming up is exactly what you need to see. And when you see that, you won't know what you're looking at. All you'll know is it is painful, or it's difficult, or it's confusing. But don't abandon that. So that, like I just said a moment or two ago, I said I don't ask anyone to get rid of, give up anything. You should just look at, be with, is another way of saying it, I guess. It's not too accurate. But whatever arises, that's it. As it is. That's not just a few words that are put up there for the hell of it. It's as it is. So whatever's happening, that's it. Something else happens, that's it. That's it. It's exactly, it's your, got to be careful what I say here on YouTube. It is your heart's desire, to put it in a romantic way. The very thing that you're looking away from, abandoning, moving out. And if you see that you're doing that, then that's the path, and that's the path, and that's the path. That's what you look at. You just look at the negativity. If somebody triggers anything with you, someone in relationship, close or distant or in between, they do something and that affects you, that's your opportunity to be what? Be grateful to them. You don't have to literally bow to them, but feel gratitude, even though they're confused and they're bumping into furniture. Be grateful to them that they are. This is your way of tying into the tributaries that run in the darkness. This is your way of hooking into that in a way that it's about bodhicitta, or the mind of awakening. Thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. In this way, you soften up that kind of intense warfare that's been going on lifetime after lifetime. This is your opportunity. You're here. I'm here. It's my opportunity. There isn't anyone I haven't murdered. If you don't understand that, you should ask questions.
What do you mean you haven't? There isn't anyone you haven't murdered?
Not separate. So if people are murdering somebody, I'm that murderer. I'm that victim. Not separate. It has to be realized. It's not a thing you think about. You just know that you're not separate from anything. It's another way of saying no self, no other. At the same time, there's no self, no other. That can come back and hit you in the face. Your own ego mind, the ego minds of others, just not to be gotten rid of. Don't get rid of the very thing that's going to help you help others, serve others. So when something arises like that, this is what the sitting practice of meditation, shikantaza, zazen, awareness practice is about, is to train your mind to sharpen that blade, sharpen that magnifier, polish that lens, whatever silly way you want to talk about it, so that when things do come up, you can see them more clearly. You can see that they have an endless stream of causes and conditions that provided you with that particular instant of happiness or misery or boredom. It's just that. And when you see that, don't meddle with it. If you see it in others, don't meddle. Especially don't meddle with others without their permission. Give no advice to anyone. Knock it off.
Question from Jim Service
Yes. Mr. James.
out in Arizona. How do we examine what arises, thoughts and feelings, without labeling when language is reflexive?
So all you do is just see include it. You don't have to go, oh, I'm labeling. I need to get the label out of the way. No, you don't. The label is is the object of contemplation, meditation. Whatever arises, just look at it. And the more terrifying and frightening it is, it probably is a sign that you're looking right at the heart of the confusion. Don't look away. And if you do look away, then just look at the way you're ignoring. Keep it very simple. Return to square one. Just this, just this. When the ideas, the reflexive kind of constructs come up, there is an awareness that is not at the mercy of those constructs. Otherwise, you couldn't ask that question. When I say you, I mean Jim. You couldn't ask that without awareness of seeing I'm loading this up with ideas and concepts and arrows and this, and this must mean this, and that must point to that. So it's a matter of practice. And I don't know how much some people can practice. I've met people who have practiced a lot. Thousands, way more than I've ever practiced. And they're crazy. I'll say that with a capital K. Crazy. When I say that, I'm saying they're confused. It's not bad. I'm not blaming them. I'm not putting them in some kind of a bad person cage. I'm just saying something about that, either their own karma, that this is a lifetime where they just need to spin in circles and sit anyway, and then other people awaken really quick. There's some kind of a spontaneous, it comes out, you don't even deserve it. I mean, you may have meditated, you may not have.